Good afternoon and welcome. This talk is going to be slightly different from all the other talks you would have attended throughout the day. And I say this because while the other talks probably delivered a very important message with a clear goal on what you need to do when you walk out, this talk will mostly be me telling you about myself and some of the bad mistakes I've made over the past few months. I'll start with a glimpse into who I am. My name is Lucky Nkosi. I work as a software engineer here at BBD in a unique unit known as ATC. We are essentially charged with BBD's consulting as well as our research and development functions, but I think the most important responsibility we have is facilitating the learning of all the different units and individuals here at BBD. For my sins, I studied engineering at WITS, where I'm currently pursuing an honors in game design. And the most important thing for you to know about me is that my Twitter handle is at nlucky_Nkosi. Please feel free to tweet me, let me know what you think of this talk, and let's have some fun. So, a bit more about myself. A few years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 chronic narcolepsy. It sounds way more serious than it is. What it is, it's essentially a sleep disorder that's characterized by excessive sleepiness, by sleep paralysis, and hallucinations. In some severe cases, it also comes with cataplexy, which is the loss of some of your muscle control. Around the same time, I was also diagnosed with ADHD, there we go, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now this means that when I'm in a sitting like this one, or in a lecture hall, I'm usually in one of two states. The first is me struggling to stay awake, and the second is that the presenter might say something that really gets my attention, and then I can't hear anything else because I've distracted myself with my own thoughts. So when I attended DevConf earlier this year, and I watched Jerry talk about the Internet of Things. Now, Jerry put up this slide which had a screenshot of her tweet, where she tweeted about how she flew her drone with Node, but also crashed her drone with Node. Now, Jerry said a lot of very important things in that talk that I can't tell you about right now. But as soon as I saw this, the first thing I thought was, how on earth did Jerry manage to fly her drone with Node? But more importantly, if that led to Jerry crashing her drone, I wonder how many other ways I could possibly crash a drone. And so today I give you 5 ways to kill a perfectly good drone, to answer that exact question. I'd like to tell you a story, a very short one. On my way home from a BBD event, in my Take Me Home service, I did what I seem to end up doing lately when I'm a bit intoxicated. And that's end up on wish.com and buy really cheap things that I don't actually need. So this night was no different, except here I bought a drone. The drone took a few months to arrive. It did arrive. And by the time it arrived, I'd almost forgotten that I'd bought a drone. But then I realized that I actually have no use for a drone. And this drone was really, really awesome. It's called the SG900. I've got it over here. So it's a foldable drone, really, really epic. It has a 1080p HD camera, comes with an Android app and all sorts of things. Now I had to put it to work. So I decided I'm going to answer the questions I had during Jerry's talk. I'm going to hack this drone. And as any experienced hacker will tell you, the first step to hacking a drone is observation. So I had to observe how this drone was being controlled. And once I've observed that, I knew that I had to then mimic it. This drone came with 2 means of controlling it. The first is a radio frequency-based control thing, and the other is an Android and iOS app that you get from the Play Store. Figured, well, I work with software. I'm a software developer. Can easily figure out how the app works, and then it wasn't that easy. So I went to people and I asked people who knew a bit more about networking, and everyone pointed me to something called Wireshark. I can see some heads nodding. Now, Wireshark is an interesting tool. it allows you to trace the network traffic that's happening on some specific network. Now, I noticed that when I switch on this drone, it exposes a Wi-Fi network. That's why I won't switch it on now, because I know that some people will try to check my drone. But when I switch it on, it exposes an open Wi-Fi network with almost no security. The mobile app then tries to connect to it and then sends commands. So all I had to do was figure out what those commands are and then send those commands myself. Pretty simple. This is what a Wireshark trace looks like. Seems like a lot. Those are the actual individual lines of all the data that's being communicated there. And when you click on one of those, that's the actual details of what's going on there. Now, this is a lot. First problem I had was that I was sniffing the Wi-Fi network on the drone itself. So the data that I was seeing was not how my phone was sending it, but how the drone was receiving it. And reverse engineering that, not knowing much about networks, just proved to be a bit too complex. So I realized that I needed to find a solution that will allow me to see what my phone was actually sending to the drone. Googled, and I found TPacket Capture, which allows you to actually trace data on your phone. Now, this didn't require me to root my phone, but that also meant that it didn't have all the permissions that it needed. So it would use the VPN service, which would end up blocking the actual communication from the app. So I could trace it, but now I couldn't send communication out to the drone to see what those commands are. This was on the Play Store. I thought it was safe, and I did learn one particular thing from this, was that the app was sending UDP packets to my drone. What on earth is a UDP packet? I Googled it, and that led me down an entire rabbit hole of very different networking protocols. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what all of these things meant, until I came across a solution that said you could just use Apple devices, because they're so closely synced that you can actually trace your phone's network activity on your Mac. So I enlisted the help of my friend Matthew, because I don't own any Apple devices. And at the time, I convinced him that I'd only be tracing data from the one app. So some interesting things on Matthew's phone. But I'll say that for the sake of your safety, because I generally care about your safety sometimes, and because you're probably much smarter than me and you won't go down the rabbit hole of learning all these protocols, I would advise you to do something easier and something better. Instead of trying to recreate that app, simply buy a better drone. And so, did some research, and I found the Parrot Mobo. Then I had to try and convince Tony that we needed this Mobo for research and development. But nonetheless, I managed to get us a Parrot Mobo drone over here. Now, this is a mini drone. It's smaller, so it's safe to fly in this confined space. Now, this drone is pretty cool. It came with VR goggles. It came with a Bluetooth-based control thingy that you see on your top right. But it also comes with attachables, such as the camera that you see on top of it, and a cannon shooter. So I could fly this drone and shoot cannons at all of you in the crowd today. How cool is that? It also has a claw, so you can get your drone to go get you a beer, right? These are all very practical uses of really groundbreaking technology. Now, when I looked at this drone, I realized that it uses two forms of communication: Bluetooth Low Energy and Wi-Fi. I was a bit traumatized by Wi-Fi and all the different protocols I had done, so I decided to focus on Bluetooth Low Energy. Now, Bluetooth, the sign and the name might be a bit familiar to most of you. You remember when it came out? We all had these. And those of you who are old enough, you probably had one stuck to your face permanently, trying to look busy, trying to look like you were on a serious call to avoid interacting with people. For the younger cats in the room, the millennials, not Gen Z, we had just escaped infrared technology. So even though we were using Bluetooth, we were still putting our phones together to send music and pictures to each other. Bluetooth Low Energy is slightly different to this. It's different because its difference is rather characterized by three things. The first, it's power consumption. A business could run a Bluetooth Low Energy device for years using only 4 batteries. And that's largely, and that influences its applications. It's specifically designed for low distances and for applications where you need short amounts of data to be sent reliably over a network. But one of the most useful things about Bluetooth Low Energy is its simultaneous connections. You can connect up to 20 devices with BLE, whereas traditional Bluetooth had an upper limit of 7. These numbers are obviously affected by things like your software and the hardware that you use. I promised that I was going to tell you about myself. I come from a game development background. And in games, we use an engine called Unity. This is my hammer. I hit everything with Unity. If you need me to build your website, I can find a way to do it in Unity. A mobile app. In fact, 2 years ago, I entered a mobile app into BBD's hackathon for Escape. The app had nothing to do with games, built with Unity. But since joining ATC, I've gone through a period of transformation. I'm spending so much time with Mike and Jerry that I think I've started to form a new weapon. An X, if you will. And that X is JavaScript. And I now hit everything with JavaScript. In fact, on Tuesday, I'm presenting a game for my honors research, and I'm going to build it in JavaScript, probably. And this project was no different. I decided I need to find a JavaScript implementation of connecting to my drone using Bluetooth Low Energy. And then I found 2 libraries, named Noble and Blino. Now, software developers think we're really good at naming things. Noble stands for Node Bluetooth Low Energy, and Blino stands for Bluetooth Low Energy Node. Now, these do almost opposites of each other. Noble is used to build a central module. If you want to connect to multiple Bluetooth peripherals, this is what you'd use. And you'd use Blino if you want to implement a Bluetooth peripheral, such as a heart monitor or a drone. So for this purpose, the focus was on Noble. A bit more about myself. I spent a very short time in the South African Air Force. And I took away some knowledge there that I finally found application of. And that's to know what we call the different movements of a plane. So a plane doesn't just turn left. The pilot sort of leans it to the left and hopes that the wind will blow it in the right direction. When you want to turn, that's called a yaw. That's basically like doing donuts with your plane. And then a pitch is when you pitch up and down, and then again, you hope that the wind will take you where you need to go. And this helped because I found an XML specification of how the drone interprets commands. And the XML says that you need to tell me all of these things. How much must I roll? How much must I yaw? And then the drone will understand. I then realized this is a lot of XML to generate. And I don't want to write a lot of code. I need help. We all know, or there's a running joke rather, that whatever you're looking for, chances are, if you type that.js, you'll find a library that does exactly that. So I had a mini drone. So I typed in mini drone JS, and I found a library. Exactly that. Now, this library uses Bluetooth Low Energy. It actually uses Noble to communicate with the drone, and it generates or has a parser that generates that entire XML specification for you. What this means is that after fixing a few issues with the library, as with every JavaScript library out there, you could write 1 line of code passing 3 strings to generate that entire XML. In real terms, what this means is that I can fly this drone with only 10 lines of JavaScript code running from my machine. Would you like to see that? Yes. Before we do, I promised you 5 ways to kill a perfectly good working drone. We have a perfectly good working drone. I tested it. At number 5 on that list of ways to kill a drone is to fly it with Node, the way Jerry did. Now, I'm going to switch over to show you that I'm not bamboozling you. I've got a separate laptop over here that is going to be running my code. This drone is pretty cool. It's got some lights to show you the different states that it's in. On your left, we've got a script. I hope everyone can see. And you can see that it's 10 lines of code. And all I'm going to do there is console log to say that our drone is connected, so that we see that. And then this will use Bluetooth Low Energy to try and connect to the drone and take off the drone. I'm going to press F5 and cross my fingers and hope for the best. The debugger is attached, the drone is not attaching for some odd reason. When it doesn't work, what do? Ah, brilliant. Let's see. Okay, that nearly chopped my fingers off, but it took off. I just realized that I didn't program something to make it land. But that's fine, because it uses Bluetooth Low Energy, and it means that I can simply use this controller to then take over the drone itself. And now I've got full control of the drone, and I can safely, somewhat, land it. There, safely landed. That was number 5. I owe you 4 more ways to kill a perfectly good drone. Let's see if we can get there before we're out of time. A bit more about myself. I have a 9-year-old brother, really smart kid. He actually turned 9 a few days ago. And this kid is very smart. When he comes home from school every day, he quickly finishes his homework. It's not because he's a diligent student. It's because, as he puts it, he doesn't want his mother asking to help him with his homework, because that's just not cool. So to try and keep him engaged and to keep him interested and to start getting him to playing with tech, I looked around for a couple of platforms and things to try and help me get started with teaching him. And I found something called Workbench. Now this provides a drag and drop interface that lets kids play around with the emerging technologies. In about 5 minutes, we can get this drone to do that, and it took me much longer to do it with Node. So I'm going to show you how you could use Workbench to get kids playing around with technology. And that is number 4 on a perfectly good way to kill a drone, letting your kids play with your drone. So I'm going to use the same computer. I just need to switch the projection to duplicate what's on my screen. I'm going to go to Chrome. It's not my computer, so I can safely type here. There we go, Workbench Education. I believe I'm already signed in. There's no internet connection. Well, this is awkward. It's a good thing I know the password. I do I? No. Hyatt 2019. I hope I got it right. I don't want to be discoverable. Let's see if this works. Probably should have checked this before, eh? Probably, yeah. Okay, let's see. Sign in. And it plugs into your Google account, so you can see there that I'm Lucky Nkosi. More proof. And it's actually kept some of the code that I've had. Now, the cool thing about this is that it can actually plug into a number of external applications and devices. It then uses web Bluetooth to communicate with the drone, just making sure that the drone is actually off. No, it's not. That demo would have gone up in flames. But nonetheless, you can simply pick the mini drone, which I have over here, and by clicking connect, it will try and search for the drone that's accepting connections, which, there we go. When it starts blinking green, it means that it's now ready for a connection. That's happening there. So I'm going to search for it again, connect, it's searching, it says it's scanning, there we go. It found the mumble. And I can now click on pair. It's trying to pair, it's paired, and in a second, you'll see that you can even get information about the drone. So its current state is landed, its battery levels, its flying is false. We write some great variables. But then what this allows you to do is that you've got system-based general drag and drop features, such as when the program starts, I'd like to do this. When it stops, when this arrow key is pressed, and then they've got specific mini drone features such as take off the drone and land the drone. Right, so I've shown you this. Would you like to see it work? Okay, let's see if we can get it working. I'm gonna program start. We want to take off the drone and stop the drone, stop the program eventually, but we also want to land the drone safely. We're going to run this piece of code and let's see if it works. There we go. I remember to land it, so it should land. It doesn't land. Why is the drone not landing? The drone is landing. The drone landed. Now, that's a sure way of crashing your drone, but before this talk, someone walked up to stage and said, I want to know one thing. Are you going to be using fruit? Now, I've been targeted over the past month. Different people coming to me and saying, we expect to see fruit at Escape. So I had to find a way to use fruit for something. So this is largely because of the talk I gave last year titled Play with Your Fruit and Everything Else, rather, where I essentially replaced the keyboard with fruit. And so, at number 3 on our countdown, we are going to fly this drone with fruit. Now, on Workbench, you can hook up to your keyboard events, such as when the up arrow key is pressed. So what we're going to do is, when the up arrow key is pressed, we're going to take off the drone, and we are then going to land the drone when the down arrow is pressed. How's that? So I'll change, like every developer, copy paste, and we'll say when the down arrow is pressed, we want to not take off the drone, but we'd like to land it and stop the program. How's that? Now, I asked Leo to bring me fruit. She got me tomatoes. Pardon?
It counts.
I mean, sure. So, I recently gave a talk about the fourth industrial revolution to UCT students, and when I told them about fruits, they didn't believe me. So I'd like one of you to come and fly this drone with the fruits, please. Lauren. There we go. Let's give it up for Lauren. So, hi Lauren.
Hi.
Thank you for agreeing to help us today. This is called the ground fruit. That will be the fruit 1, the other fruit. This will be the other fruit. And as you can see, I'm actually plugging these in. Cool? Do you
I agree. Yes, sorry.
Do you agree?
Yes,
Cool.
that's what it's doing.
The last thing that I'd like to do is what every developer does when they're debugging to make sure that my stuff works. I'm going to console log up just so that we can see it working on the screen. So that's up. I'm going to copy and paste that to our other bit of code. And we're going to say done. And we have a console where we can monitor these logins. So our drone is still connected. I'm going to press run. Your hand has to stay on this one. Keep your hand on this one, no matter what. Okay. Put your hand on. Okay, no. Remove your hand. I said no matter what. So keep your hand on there. Cool. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So the problem is I don't know which one's which, right? So touch one of them. That didn't work. That didn't work either. Why did that not work? Oh. Hey. Okay. That was the down. So you want to press the up instead.
Okay.
That's not the up either, is it? Try this one. Lauren? No? No? Let's restart it.
Oh, right.
Okay, try that. No?
It's me, isn't it?
It's Lauren. It's Lauren. Lauren, why aren't you? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the takeoff and put it over here. Modern solutions for modern problems. Right. Thank you very much, Lauren. You've been amazing. Now I'll try to safely land this drone. Keywords try. It's still blinking. Nope, nope. There we go. Awesome. Now I need to close this browser and cool. The second way, or number 2 on the countdown, is probably one of my favorites. You can make your drone mimic other devices' movements, right? Now, some of you might know that I am largely fascinated by human-computer interaction. I strongly believe that if we look at the different ways in which we interact with computers, we can start creating more meaningful experiences. We've been stuck with the keyboard and mouse for far too long, and the more we play around with all of these things, the more we create much more different experiences. Think VR, think AR. These are all technologies that we can use to change how we've always perceived things. In a recent talk given at JOSJS, Mike asked the question, what should the web do? The web is becoming the main way through which people are experiencing technology, and web developers have to deliver. We've heard talks of whether native or PWA is better, whether hybrid is better, and there's no consensus, even amongst web developers themselves. They can't agree which way of developing is best. And when you've got strongly opinionated people building their own things, the web goes haywire. And we start threatening the first rule of the web: don't break the web. And this is where the W3C comes in. The W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, their mission is to lead the web to its full potential. They plan to do this by developing web standards, documentation. How? Discussions and discussions and discussions. They split into working groups, they discuss, they mull over it, they think they like it, they pass it on to the next group, etc. Now these standards and APIs are well documented on the MDN web docs, and all the big browser manufacturers contribute to these web docs. And it's generally considered to be a decent source of truth. I say decent because just because it's on the internet doesn't mean that it's true, right? Now, when you go on the website, you'll see a full list of the specifications and APIs that are available. You'll see the ones that are still in testing, ones that are experimental. Then you can start playing with them. One caught my attention, one that was called the generic Census API. Okay, generic Census. Now, this actually includes your accelerometer, the gyroscope, things like ambient light sensor. I'm not sure how my phone would be able to sense light, but this gives you direct access from the browser without using any libraries to the sensors that exist in your phone. You can check whether the browser you're using supports these features by either putting a try-catch block around everything, or because it's JavaScript, these are the different ways in which you can check whether it exists in the browser that you're using. You should all be using Chrome, so it's well supported in Chrome. Now, as you can imagine, sensors are very, very, very difficult and intricate things. So the code we write for them will also have to be slightly complex. And so to create a new instance of your accelerometer, for instance, you would type sensor equals new accelerometer. Fine, that was too easy. And it skipped. To start your sensor, you would say sensor.start. To stop reading, simply sensor.stop. And then you can hook into different events within that life cycle, such as reading, so that you can continuously do actions while your sensor is providing that information for you. Which means that I could simply take my phone and map it to my drone's movement, so that if I put my phone up, the drone takes off. If I lean forward, the drone attacks Alex. And when I put my phone down, I land the drone back. And this is what I'd like to show you today. I'm switching to my real laptop with all the code. This gives new meaning to it works on my machine. Like it literally only works on my machine. So what I've got on the right-hand side over here is Chrome DevTools. And I'm going to try to connect to my phone to show you what's happening on my phone. So I just have to refresh that and inspect that. I think it's working. Is it working? No, it's not working. I just need to put my phone in developer settings. My phone is there. I had this open before, so I don't know what's going on. I'm going to open up a new tab. Okay, it's opened up the new tab on my phone. I'm just waiting for it to come up on the screen. There we go. It says tab is inactive. There, right? What this means is that what you're seeing on the right of your screen is on my phone, and you can see me scrolling, right? So I can show you exactly what's happening on my phone. And I'm going to close this quickly. I'm going to show you how we managed to get that working. So the drone is blinking, so it's ready for connection. I'm going to try and securely connect to it, running my script. And when it connects, it uses Node to serve a very simple website. So the drone is connected, and on my phone, I can go to localhost 3000 because I'm using port forwarding. So I'm accessing my laptop's localhost via my phone. The drone is connected. There. So on my phone, I've got X, Y, and Z values that I'm reading from my accelerometer. What that allows me to do is that if I tilt my phone, it will take off the drone. So just give it a second to connect. It's now connected, and we've got that, right? Which means that if I tilt my phone to the right, the drone will move to the right, and to the right again, and forward, right? And it means that I can do I'm going to take it down a bit just to make sure that it's safe. A bit more. But now we can do even cooler things, like backflipping the drone. There we go, right? And we can even do front flips with the drone, right? Right? So let's bring it back and land it safely. Is it safe to land? Yeah. And to land it, all I have to do is put my phone back. How would I not kill Tony's drone? There we go. By putting my phone down, the drone lands safely. So the only part that you didn't see on the screen was that we get the accelerometer values sent to the front end, or read from the front end, as X, Y, and Z values, which means that all I had to do was take those X, Y, and Z values when my phone is in the different positions and map those to movements that I want my drone to actually take. So if 0, 10, 0, I understand that that's it being straight, and I send the takeoff command to my drone, which is, in retrospect, quite simple. And you could do that with simply 10 lines of code, just reading that data and really trying to change and starting to change how we interact with technology. Now, this talk is almost over, and I promised you one more thing. The one way you're almost guaranteed to crash your drone. We all know if you give your technology to people, they will crash it. The one way to definitely crash your drone is let other people fly it together at the same time. What I mean by this is that I'm going to let you, all of you, fly the drone at once using Twitter. So I've written some code that will, every 5 seconds, pull all the tweets with the hashtag BBDescape. And of those 6 words, whichever one pops up the most, that's the action that the drone will do. So once I start this, the drone will take off and it'll wait for results. So I'm gonna try and get this onto the screen to show you. I'm gonna have to get rid of the slide, unfortunately, but it's left, right, forward, back, flip, and then backflip. Cool. Did we all get those? Hashtag BBDescape. If it doesn't have the hashtag, it will not pick up the tweet. It's not actually case sensitive because you write good software. There we go. So I'm going to switch to my other computer, make sure that the drone is still alive, even after everything. And we are going to run this on our machine here on localhost 3000. Just need to connect to the drone. Okay, there we go. I hope I'm running the correct script. Right, new connection, and let's see if we get the tweets. Okay, in 5 seconds, it'll show us results. Still no tweets coming through. Okay, don't know why the tweets aren't coming through, but I was hoping that your tweets would be able to fly the drone. But yes, so I'm gonna just switch this off for safety, and we'll try it on another day. So, to close off, when I told my friend about this talk, he asked me, why on earth would you do this? And that's because this is how I learn. I learned about browser APIs and the generic Census API because I had a drone that I now had to put to use. The point of this talk was to show you that you can have a lot of fun while learning the different tools that you need for your everyday job. I now know that I can play around with the APIs and stuff that comes standard in the browser so that I don't have any library dependencies. I can deliver quality software that will always work on the web because that's the first rule of the web. Thank you very much.